In this video, we're looking at the objects that we created for the planting in the grass. And this video will be all about importing the models that we created earlier on, the palm tree and the bush, and replicating that across these objects. Now, just before we imported the plant in, I just want to go back and make some minor modifications to these objects. So first of all, let's just go and turn off the layers that we don't need. We'll only select grass, which is the one we're working on, and then perhaps these slabs and the podium. We'll choose a tower facade. That'll work a little bit better. So what we'd like to do now is we want to add a level of grass onto this slab here. So what we need to do, let's select all of our grass, using that selected highlighted. And let's include this top layer into that selection. Let's isolate. And in plan view, let's draw out the shape for the grass that we would like. We're going to use smooth and smooth. And here, let's just draw a object that we can use to add some planting to. Can deselect start new. And always with these splines, remember the fewer points you have, the better. Let's make this one a bezier and stretch it out a little bit. Great, so now that you have that, you can go into your perspective view, and we just need to find out how high this slab is. We can look here that it's 19 meters. So let's go ahead and move this up till 19.1, just so that it's sitting slightly above. That is smooth. Great, now we can go across and take this part, which is also our grass, and we can attach this to it. That way we have these areas as being our grassy areas. Before we attach it, I just wanted to do one more thing, and that is to go back and have a look at our tower, because we will have these tower shapes still to cut out, because we don't really want to put planting inside the tower here. We want to only put planting along the outside. So let's go and edit this by taking the forms which are underneath these towers, and we're going to basically cut that out by attaching it. You'll see what I mean. Let's go here and create a rectangle and another one here. And then these two rectangles, let's select them. Select this, isolate it. We know that this is at 22.6 meters. So let's raise this to exactly the same height. 22.6. And with the spline selected, go down to the line and then just attach these two objects. Now once your edit poly comes back into play, you'll see that these two shapes have disappeared. So in here, let's go and isolate the grass. And we can also go and attach these two objects, which are going to be the grass objects too. Now we are ready to import our planting object that we created earlier on. So let's go across to import and merge. And it's the palm tree and bush file that we made earlier. So one is a proxy, one is the bush group. So let's bring those in. And let's just pull them closer to where our site is. Just zoom into that there. And I'm just going to move them off to the side here. And just position them so that I can see them. Now there's various ways that we can go and replicate these objects. I'm going to do both methods, one which is the manual method for the palm tree, and two which is a more automated scatter method for the bush. Now first of all, for the bush, I'm just going to make a copy. And I'm going to be working with that bush copy. First of all, we also want to double check that the textures are correct. So let's just go across to textures. Let's eyedropper this and let's just see, we can see that that is in fact showing correctly. So that proxy is showing the correct texture and we can therefore use it. So over here we have the group selected, and one of the things to remember that if you copy a group around manually, you can do so without any problem. But as soon as you try to scatter, you will see that you will have that grayed out. So what we will have to do, we have to explode that group, and hence why I created a copy, because I want to leave this one as a group. And this one right here, I'm going to convert that down to an editable poly, and just attach and attach that together. So it is now a plain editable poly object. And that will then open up the opportunity to scatter. So what you can do, if you want to scatter a few thousand objects and you're not too confident about your computer, this is quite a good time to go and click hold. Now hold will basically save your file where you are just in case you make a mistake, and then you can go back just in case anything is wrong. You can also save out a copy at this point, just because these the instancing or the scattering process is similar to the conform, where it requires a lot of processing to happen. So let's go ahead and scatter that. Just go down and look at some of these options here. So under display, one of the things I like to do is hide distribution object. We can show 100% for now, because since we're not going to do too many duplicates. And for duplicates, let's just start with a very low number of 100. Now the distribution object, we can either join all of these objects together and just scatter the whole thing in one shot, but I'm going to do it separately, just in case you want to have different densities on different objects. I'm going to start with the top one, and you'll notice that we now have a scattering happening at the top. You'll also see, of course, that the objects are all lying down on their side, and what we can do for that is we can go down into transforms, and we can just figure out which one of these we need to rotate up. Before you do that, you can also try to untick perpendicular, and that seems to work much quicker in our case. So let's do that. We can also move them up so that they are slightly in the right place. And a couple of the sort of variation controls here, we can look at doing the scaling. Just a maximum range of about 30% generally works good. So some are taller. We can lock aspect, so we have some bigger, some smaller. Then depending on how much your computer can handle, you can push up your duplicates to, let's say, 1,000, or let's say 2 or 3, or you just see how much you need based on your situation. Now actually it would have been better to make even another copy of this, since I want to scatter another object to this plane here. So because I forgot to do that, I'm going to go and basically over here I can extract that operand, and I'm left with this object here. I'm going to duplicate that. That basically extracts out what we used, and I can now go and do the same process to all of these. Now I will go and do that apart. I'm not going to record that process again, but I'm just going to show you with a palm tree. We will do it manually. So I will take the palm tree and just in X and Y put it into the right position. Roughly about there. And again, it's very nice to have your point here, your X and Y down to the bottom. So if you want to do some custom scaling, you can do it from the base and you don't actually end up with floating trees anywhere. So now that you have that in place, you can go and manually, or using the scatter method, You can go and make instances and rotate. I generally like to do manual manipulation for items such as palm trees, where I want a certain palm tree to hang in the viewport, or I want certain things to look quite custom, where I don't necessarily want the computer to be generating anything for me. So I'm going to pause the video, or I'm actually going to finish the video, and in the beginning of the next video we will see how this entire surface looks like once it is covered with palm trees and bushes. So just to recap, what we did in this one is we have gone and double-checked our surfaces that we will be scattering on. Here you can see why we cut out these shapes is because if we hadn't, we would have had scattered bushes inside our towers, which we don't want. And we've also looked at just manipulating the palm tree manually, instancing it across just as the option 2 for the copying process. So that's it for this video. Next one will show how all of this looks complete.